Welcome back, everyone. I'm so pumped to jump right into today's explainer because we are unpacking a psychological phenomenon that, honestly, hits a little close to home for a lot of us. We're going to explore the complex psychology behind people who dream incredibly big but do absolutely nothing. It's this tricky web of hidden mental hurdles, and I literally cannot wait to break it all down for you.
Okay, let's dive into this. You know exactly the type of person I'm talking about, right? Maybe it's a friend, a coworker, or hey, maybe it's you. It's that person who is constantly talking about their massive dreams, leveling up, making a ton of money, or completely flipping the script on their life. They picture it perfectly, and they genuinely believe they can pull it off. But then, year after year, the needle just doesn't move. Absolutely nothing changes. So the million-dollar question is, why do big dreamers so often do nothing? To get to the bottom of this, we've got to talk about something called the inaction gap. Now, let's lower our defenses for just a second here. Psychology actually proves that this total lack of execution, it isn't just everyday laziness, not at all. It's actually a fascinating, really complex series of mental traps and hidden psychological hurdles working completely behind the scenes. Basically, your brain is quite literally getting in its own way.
So here's our roadmap for this diagnostic journey into the brain. We're going to systematically break down these hidden traps by looking at the dreamer's reality, tricking your own brain, hiding behind preparation, the identity disconnect, getting addicted to potential, and finally, the action imperative. Let's get right into it.
Number 1. The dreamer's reality, or the big ideas that go absolutely nowhere.
There is some severe friction happening here. Think about the massive gulf between the thrilling act of just dreaming up your goals and the grueling reality of making actual progress. Our dreamer can vividly picture launching that successful startup, right? They've practically mapped out their whole CEO lifestyle. But the second it's time to sit down and actually file the boring LLC paperwork, they completely freeze up. It's like hitting a brick wall. So why exactly does the brain prefer the imagination phase over reality?
That brings us to Section 2, tricking your own brain, also known as the dopamine trap.
This is our first major psychological hurdle, and it's a wild one. When you constantly obsess over your goals, your brain literally releases a hit of dopamine. It gets tricked. It confuses daydreaming with actual tangible progress. So your mind essentially feels like, wow, we just ran a marathon, while you are literally still sitting on the couch. Because you've already won the prize in your own head, your internal urgency to actually get up and take action drops all the way to zero.
Moving right along to Section 3, hiding behind preparation, which covers fear, timing, and overthinking. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is how we group these three major roadblocks into one massive phase of utter paralysis.
We really need to completely reframe how we view the fear of failure. People so often assume that doing nothing just means you lack ambition, but psychology tells a totally different story. It's actually a built-in defense mechanism. People will stay stuck in the planning phase simply so they don't have to risk ruining their flawless, perfectly imagined dream. Think about it. As long as they don't actually try, their dream remains safe and perfect. They don't have to face the incredibly messy reality of a real-world failure.
And because they want to avoid that risk at all costs, they just wait for the perfect moment. But here is a profound psychological truth we all need to hear. Readiness often comes after action, not before. Let that sink in for a second. Waiting around for the absolute perfect moment, or waiting until you feel 100% ready, it practically guarantees that time is never going to arrive. Taking action is the very thing that generates the feeling of readiness in the first place.
This obsession with perfect timing triggers a vicious downward spiral of overthinking. Here's how it plays out. Step 1, you analyze every single step, every tiny outcome, every possible worst-case scenario. Step 2, all that intense, nonstop mental gymnastics literally drains your cognitive energy, which dumps us right into Step 3. By the time you actually need to take a physical step forward, you are completely tapped out, mentally exhausted. You are quite literally too tired to act.
This brings us to Part 4, the identity disconnect, or what happens when your goals don't match your self-image. You see, the brain is incredibly stubborn. It actively resists any actions that contradict how we secretly view ourselves. Do you ever catch yourself thinking things like, well, I'm just not a disciplined person, or I'm the kind of person who never really finishes things? If those are your secret underlying beliefs, it honestly doesn't matter how huge or inspiring your dream is. You are going to severely struggle to take action because your brain is fighting to stay consistent with that damaging internal script. Which leads us directly to this really profound statement.
Action requires becoming someone different. Pulling off your biggest ideas demands an uncomfortable, fundamental shift in who you actually are. If your core identity is the dreamer or the procrastinator, putting your head down and doing the work means you have to kill off that old version of yourself. And for the human brain, that is a deeply, deeply intimidating prospect.
And that perfectly tees up Section 5, addicted to potential, or the comfort of what could be.
So the crucial point here is exposing one of the most common and, honestly, most dangerous traps we fall into, falling in love with our own potential. Being addicted to your potential is thrilling, right? You get to play the exciting role of the undiscovered genius at dinner parties. But compare that to the reality of effort. Real effort is repetitive. It's slow. Mostly it's just plain boring. The brain will take the easy high of talking about a dream over the unglamorous, sweaty reality of laying bricks any day of the week.
And here is the brutal truth of the matter. Staying attached to who you could be feels infinitely better than facing who you actually are right now in this exact moment. People dodge the effort because looking at their current reality, acknowledging their flaws, and facing their utter lack of immediate skill, it's just way too uncomfortable. It is so much easier to stay safely wrapped up in that warm, cozy blanket of your own limitless potential.
Finally, we arrive at our last section, the action imperative, overcoming your own mind.
Let's break down the reality of what actually separates the dreamers from the doers. Because here's the thing, having big dreams, that's not rare at all. Literally everyone has them. But realizing them, turning them into reality, that is highly, highly uncommon. And here's the real kicker. The deciding factor is not natural talent. Ambition and talent absolutely do not determine who succeeds and who stays stuck.
It all comes down to the core thesis of everything we've covered in this explainer today. Success is simply the ability to act even when your mind is actively working against you. Achieving your goals means you have to consciously go to war with the exact mental traps we just uncovered. You've got to act when you don't feel completely ready. You have to act when you're terrified of ruining your perfect, flawless dream. And you absolutely must act when the day-to-day work feels ridiculously repetitive and boring.
So I want to leave you with this one provocative question. Will you stay addicted to who you could be, or are you finally going to do the hard work of who you are right now? It is time to break your own cycle of inaction. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. I really hope this deep dive into the mind gave you the clarity you need to finally take that very first step. Keep learning, keep pushing forward, and I will catch you on the next one.